Welcome back to another episode of Wrist Check Podcast.
Very, very special episode.
Very, very special episode. It's not episode 100. The guys are here a little early.
Yes.
But they had so much heat to bring with them. We said, come on through to the new studio and hang out with us.
Yes, yes.
If you can see what's on the table, it's literally on fire. All these watches are hot, not stolen.
Yes.
Yeah. Good distinction.
Good distinction.
There we go.
But we have Mr. Eric Wind
Yes.
and Charlie Dunne.
Woo!
Good to have you guys back in the studio. This is actually Charlie's first time on the couch officially in front of the camera.
100%.
Yes.
Good to have you, my man. I'm glad you did this.
Good to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
It's a way better couch than last time.
It is. It is.
It's
I
worth
paid,
the wait.
Paid a lot of good money on that couch. I didn't get the sport coat memo.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I'm a little underdressed, but we'll make it do what it's due.
Yes.
Good.
But it's good to have you guys. I know you guys are visiting New York right now. You just had the Watch Pro Awards. No repeat this year, but we know you deserve it. We won't talk about the other guys, but we're gonna get into just what you've been up to since the last time we saw you, and some really cool watches. But before that, obviously, tradition. We start with the man who never repeats a watch. We have to have our honorary wrist check.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, what's on the wrist, sir?
So I am wearing a Win Vintage Special. I was just talking to the guys about this piece. Charlie was kind of schooling me on this 50s Omega, which is pretty interesting because it wasn't a part of a product line yet.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a DeVal? Is it a Constellation? It's got all of the nods of all of those pieces,
Yep.
but nondescript.
Is that a pipe hand dial in there?
Pipe hand dial, Arabic numerals, which is pretty cool because the Arabic numerals, of course, are precious metal and they're applied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like very intentional. This is a banger with this mesh. It reminds me of like a medieval armor. I feel like a knight wearing this watch.
I mean, if you were a knight wearing gold mesh armor, it's pretty fucking sick.
Yes.
It does look like Kevlar.
It does.
It definitely does.
It suits you, man. You look very wealthy right now.
Yeah.
Oh, listen, it's hot in here.
Okay.
I'm just oozing with money.
You've got. I can't wait for Mary to see that on your wrist.
Right? No, this is a banger. I mean,
That means it's coming home with you.
Yeah.
yes. It's coming home with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love it. The case size is perfect. Spider lugs, this captivating bracelet, right? Like you can do a nice wrist roll and it'll definitely shoot perfectly on the Win Vintage site.
Yes. That's great.
That watch is sick.
Charlie, new to the show. Wait, well, first of all, hold on. Time out. Let me stop. I got to stop because we're doing a wrist check. We really should do a sneaker check.
Yes.
Because what is going on with these shoes? You got on the Rockefeller Air Force Ones, and my man sitting to my right has got on the new 4040 Air Force Ones. Is something going on? I don't know. Did Jay-Z invest in Win Vintage?
I'm trying. I'm hoping and praying.
We're not doing what is it, Wendy Williams, where they do sneaker cam or something like that?
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Sneaker shopping, at least.
Sneaker shopping.
You guys came through with some serious footwear. I feel a little bad. I'm just burnt out.
I like it.
We knew we were going to be in the presence of greatness, so we stepped it up.
Respect.
Thank you.
Step
High
it
praise.
up.
We had to
praise.
come correct.
Yeah,
There we
Rashawn
go.
was going to be here. We needed to be on our best.
Yeah.
Sock it to me. What's on the wrist, Charlie?
I'm wearing a Submariner 5512. Gift from Eric Wind in November of last year. And we'll wear it probably 6 out of the 7 days of the week and
Amazing.
really enjoy it. So it's a fun watch. And I don't know. It's about as good as it gets.
This is-
Simple and obvious, but it's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at those looms. Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
nice.
I mean, you guys are like the dynamic duo. Like you guys kill the business together. You share watches together. You gift each other watches. Like what don't you guys do together? Like
Only a few things.
you know what?
I think you leave that right there.
Yes.
You know what I love about this watch, same thing I love about vintage Rolex, the bracelets.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
So
God.
good.
And this
Yes.
one has got that stretch oyster bracelet.
Yeah.
It's
Fire. And it's tight.
it's so nice.
Yeah.
This is really, really good.
Charlie's ready for a post-Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah.
You got the stretch bracelet
There
and
we
the
go.
stretch
Yes.
bands.
There, I'm
Yes.
saying though.
There we go.
It's called Come Prepared.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's sick.
I'll go next. We'll save my man for last. I'm wearing, well, I introduced this on a previous episode, but this is a new watch that I recently acquired. I got the Tudor Red Bull Alinghi Racing Pelagos FXD Chrono. It's a mouthful.
It's one. Yeah.
It's a lot. But I don't know. There was something about this watch when I first saw the release. The colorway, I thought it was sick. I think it's cool to have a chrono that you can dive with. And I liked the fact, what I really loved was, I did love the partnership. I know people feel a way about Red Bull, but it was more so about the race for me, because I looked at it as, this is a period in which Hans Wulldorf is positioning Tudor to really into the ultra luxury space. Yacht racing is like a super luxurious sport, very intense, very expensive. And for Tudor to have a piece associated with that, to me, I kind of felt like, you know what? Maybe not the most popular piece right now, but this marks a pretty interesting spot and note in their history. So I was like, this is one that I was really excited to have, and I'm glad I got it.
It's fun.
Yeah. You got something on the wrist.
I've got a Zenith Daytona on.
Respect.
I like to shop the inventory sometimes. So this is for sale. For anyone that
Eric, they
feels
said
the
you're
need.
never supposed to get high on your own supply.
Yeah, I try to just entice. So you can wear this watch. It can be yours.
Yo, Bezel just launched auctions?
Really?
Yeah, they did. You could bid on watches inside the app. They give you notifications on auction drops, and it's still authenticated. Oh, shoot, I won.
Yo, what you win?
Man, don't worry about me, man. Go download the app. Go visit getbezel.com.
Oh, come on, man.
So, fellas, we got you back just shy of 100 episodes.
We'll come back for 100.
I know you will. We'll
Yes,
have you here.
yes.
Oh, well, you better yet. Actually, we should go down and visit you in Florida.
Yeah,
100%.
I think
for
that's
sure.
how we do it correct.
Yes.
Right?
That'd be sick.
But I hear you guys are working on a book.
Yes, we're very excited. We just
So
the ink is not yet dry, but it is signed and finalized. We
Wow.
are doing a book, The Modern Guide to Vintage Watches.
the modern guide to vintage watches. Okay.
and
Love that.
Charlie and I are co-authors.
Mm.
We got to get them tens of thousands of words in the next few months. So we're mapping it out. We've got the chapters kind of mapped out, and we're very excited.
What can the people expect? I mean, obviously, I know Rolex means a great deal to the two of you. I assume there'll be some information on Rolex. Are you guys hitting the audience with like new information, kind of things that maybe they didn't know? What's sort of the angle?
It's a lot of it. It's great because there isn't really a book that you could just pick up and say, I want to learn about vintage watches. Like, what do I need to know? And that's kind of a gap in the marketplace.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
so many people generally interested. Some of it is kind of based on the talks I gave to the Horological Society of New York, like how to collect vintage watches. And we've got information about that, maybe some debates about patina, people that like it, how much is too much, etc. I want to have some kind of tongue-in-cheek, like entertaining language.
Yeah.
I want people to actually pick it up that are watch enthusiasts and feel like they're getting something new.
And also be a little bit less intimidating for someone who has no idea about vintage watches or watches in general. They can pick it up and appreciate it and not necessarily be overwhelmed with it as well.
We'll talk about the dangers of birth year watches.
Yeah.
We gotta throw that in there.
Yes.
And why that's not a cool place to start. But we'll have some like Easter eggs for people that are hardcore win vintage groupies, but also some novel, funny stuff,
Be fun
opinion
to
pieces.
include some stuff from clients and collectors that we're friends with and photographs of their watches in it. So that'll be kind of a rewarding experience for people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose idea was this?
They approached us, which was
Oh,
great.
wow.
It's funny because over the last few years, I've talked to different publishers about it. Some people aren't very excited. Like, I talked to Aseline at one point, and they're like,
Is that how you pronounce it though?
I don't know. I said it a certain way for a reason. Because I was like, they're like, it'd be great to do a book. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, how much is it? How's that work out? And they're like, you pay us like $450,000.
Oh my god!
And then I'm like, well,
That doesn't sound like a good
can we
deal.
make that back? Not really. So I was like, maybe not that one.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't work with that publisher. But
Respect.
some of the other
Yes.
Shout out to Aseline.
You know what's so interesting about, you know, the dynamic that you guys bring together. You know, we were just joking about how much you guys do together. Like, you know, you guys are in the business together, but also innovating and kind of changing the perspective of what it is to be a collector or to enjoy this hobby.
Yeah.
I find you guys to be the perfect matrimony. For those
married. You guys are married. Congratulations.
All right.
but for you know, for the people
Is that legal in Florida?
right? For the people that don't know, can you speak to like how you guys met? I mean, I know you know your origin story, Charlie, but I think it's very interesting for people to kind of hear how you guys came together.
Actually, I don't know that story. I have no idea how you guys fucking met.
You want to take it?
There was this weird guy on Instagram. His Instagram was books on time, and at the time, and he wrote me some messages, and then I was like, "Oh, what do you think of my talk to the Horological Society of New York?"
Never seen it.
He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Dude, you're a vintage collector, supposed so-called vintage enthusiast, and you haven't seen this or heard about this." So then I said, "Well, watch it and tell me what you think." And then he said, "Okay, I'm gonna take this very seriously and like I'm gonna watch it." And then he sends me about 2,000 words of his critiques and questions back. And I go, I really wanted like a one-word answer. Like, that was great or so helpful or something. Not this. And I said, thank you for watching it with such detail. Basically, we dug this email out or something recently.
Yeah.
And
A few
I
months
was like-
later, I came down and checked out inventory and
Told him
kept
what he was
bugging
doing
him.
wrong.
Yeah, told him what he was doing wrong. Kept bugging him.
Yeah.
So no,
it was funny.
it's fun. I was working in marketing at the time, and then keep on continually coming down every few months and checking out watches and learning. And did an internship at one point, and eventually Eric was offered me the job, and I said 100%, let's go.
Yeah, February 2022.
Wow.
He interned in September 2021, and I had someone else working for me more as like an administrator, office manager. I was like, I don't need someone else right at this moment. And he was still doing well. And then she decided she was not like a super fan of watches and wanted to do something else. She's more accounting based. And I said, Charlie, Nair, who he knew, has put in like 2 weeks notice.
I'm
Can you-
freaking out. I can't do all of this. I need you to put your 2 weeks notice in.
Are you ready to do this?
You said, what is it you said?
Are you ready to put in your 2 weeks notice? And if you don't accept this, you're going to regret this the rest of your life.
What an offer.
And then he said, okay, I'm putting it in right now.
Convinced.
Wow.
Yeah, it
It was fun though. It was a cool jump. I mean, as well, transitioning to something that you're very passionate
yeah, of
about,
course.
investing all your heart into it. It's a big jump, but at the same time, very, very rewarding.
And I couldn't picture your business any other way without Charlie.
That's true.
You know, I mean, when we got acquainted, I guess you were already interning there. I'm not sure long.
Yeah, somewhere in
the
there.
years
Yeah.
kind of
They blend.
they
together.
blend
Yeah.
for me at least. But your pictures got better. That's for damn sure.
Yes.
That's great.
But no, you guys are like the perfect duo. I have a ball texting you guys and talking about watches. You guys have really looked out for me over the last couple of years and helped me navigate the vintage scene and get into watches and get out of watches. And I lean on the two of you for information and education. So I'm glad you made that jump. This episode of WCP is sponsored by Bezel, a trusted marketplace for buying and selling watches.
With over 18,000 and counting watches listed from both private sellers and professional dealers, you have your pick of the litter from brands like Rolex, AP, Patek, and more. Bezel is one of the highest rated marketplaces for watches. Inside the Bezel app, you can make offers on watches, buy them outright, bid at auction, all with confidence knowing each timepiece is authenticated by an in-house team of experts. For more information, visit getbezel.com or search Bezel in the App Store and download the app today.
So, some things had happened since the last time, obviously. You apparently, you got this big article in Esquire.
Yeah, that was-
the $1 million dealer.
yeah.
The vintage Vanguard.
Yeah.
With a really boss-ass picture.
I know.
must say.
It's so boss.
It was so funny.
Did you take that photo?
No,
It was from Esquire.
Esquire did. And
How-
I was like smiling in all of them, and then they said they really asked us to do one or two where you're just serious,
Just
I'm
frowning.
I don't think that's really me, but fine.
It was
And
good.
then
It was
the-
like, I'm Eric. I
then
sit
the-
on top of all the
then
money.
Then the article came out. I'm like, what? That's the photo they took. Like 99% of the photos, I'm smiling.
I know every other vintage dealer, when they saw the article, was like, fuck him.
And then when I showed Christine, my wife, she's like, "Is that okay? That photo, is that too serious?" That's not
Listen,
really-
I thought it was great.
Yes,
it was fun.
yes.
I thought it was
yes.
great. It was shout out to Esquire. It was a well-written article. The picture, I fucking loved it.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yes.
And then, what was funny was I was transitioning during this period too. And no pun, you caught wind of it. And I was talking, we had just done the episode with Ben Clymer.
Yes.
And I sent you, I think, a clip where he was talking about you. And he laughed about the $1 million dealer thing.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you guys gifted me Tudor Black Bay 58 with the Rowing Blazer stamp, which I love. Thank you
It's
so
so
much.
fun. Yeah,
The
it's
both of you. Still
course.
one of my favorite watches. It's going to get buried with me.
Yeah,
That thing is
good.
incredible.
Yeah.
And, but you sent a little note. A C note.
A C note, yes. I was going to say a C note.
And
yes.
Eric signed a $100 bill. He said, "Perry, enjoy the watch. The $100 dealer, Eric
That's so
Wynn."
fun.
That was
Charlie's
Okay,
bright
good.
idea. That was so good.
Speaking of that interview, that was his best interview that anyone's ever had with him.
With
too.
with Ben Clymer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
everyone's
awesome.
watched all his interviews. That was his best interview.
I think so
Ever.
too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
funny. A lot of people said that. So Ben, if you're listening, I know you are. Come back on the show. Come to the new studio. We can talk about some things.
Yeah. for
Yes.
sure.
But no, yeah. It was, and we had a lot of fun with him. He was fantastic. He gave us a lot more than I expected, and that was a real treat for us. So, you guys didn't come empty-handed.
Far from it.
There's a lot happening on this table. I kind of want to get into a couple of watches. Rashawn, what do you think is the most interesting thing here?
Oof. We were talking about it off camera. I am very, very impressed by this tropical dial Speedmaster. Part of the reason because it is actually a true tropical. One thing that I have to, whenever I speak about Eric and especially Charlie, when I say, "Have you heard of Eric Wynn?" Like, "Oh, maybe they have or maybe they haven't." And if they haven't, I say, "Listen, this guy arguably is the greatest vintage curator." I'm going to respectfully say in America, but to me, the
not
greatest in the
global
world.
yet.
No. I was going to say greatest in the world. 'Cause I don't want to be too arrogant. Like, I don't want to get too crazy.
Yeah.
But I go, like this guy or you both, are very, very intentional. You're very meticulous in what you, what you pick up. And like, even we console and we talk about watches. Watches do come across my desk and I say, "Hey, Eric, would you have any interest in purchasing these pieces?" Like, and from a photo, he's like, "Nah, repainted dial." This was reapplied. It's all these kind of
But
things.
I do love that, to your point. The fact
Yes.
that like you guys have developed this eye and attention to detail because you've seen it handle so many watches.
Yeah.
That oftentimes, like, we will send you pictures and you can immediately say, "Wow, that's amazing."
Yes.
Or dial looks refinished.
Yes.
That thing is polished. Like I'm sorry
Yes.
to cut you off.
Well, that's funny because Eric says no more than he says yes.
I think he says yes a lot to me. I don't know.
But just in terms of like what he wants to take on and sell, it speaks volumes because we do know a lot of cash grab dealers. And Perry, we've talked about a couple of dealers where we go ahead and say,
I won't say no
no.
names.
But I'm just saying in terms of like, man, that watch looks good. And Perry's like, it's just the photos. Like what you see from the Win Vintage website is what you get.
Yeah.
Like, every detail. And shout out to Christine because she does take the photos.
Yes, yeah.
Let me see these. Let me see this.
And she does an amazing job at doing your wrist shots and getting every single angle so that, the client feels comfortable in what they're buying.
Yeah.
We have an appreciation for the art of touching up a photo and making a watch in the background look really beautiful, but we don't edit any of the photos on the website. So
They just go straight up
Yeah.
from the camera.
Yeah,
and
no, you will
upload
see the
them.
blemishes. You'll see the
Yeah.
scratches. You'll see the marks and stuff like that.
It's how they're supposed to be viewed.
Yeah.
And when people get the watches in person, they see
They
what
look
they're
better
expecting.
in person
Yeah.
because you're looking at it much larger than you see it actually. And then you're like, wow, this looks insane in person. And I say, I told you. I told you.
To piggyback on what you were talking about a little bit, I haven't handled very many tropical dial watches. I've seen a few, but this is really interesting because there is a lot of crap out there, and what people will apply that term to.
Yeah.
But something like this is actually the condition of this dial kind of reveals to me how rare a tropical dial actually is.
Yeah.
Like there are undertones of like red that are on top of the black, and that's where you're getting the brown. And it really does look like a dial that was like baked by the sun.
It's, for me, one of the tests of a true tropical dial is if you're inside like we are now and it's still brown.
Yeah.
Because you get all the time dealers taking watches outside in the sun, and the sun can make black look a little bit more brown.
Right.
Even if you took Charlie's like sub in the sun, in the bright Florida sun, it can look a little brown if you got your iPhone out and taking photos of it at midday. But it's different in person, like under artificial light, and that if it's brown there, then it's definitely brown outside.
It's also certain models too really are much more emphasized with, like, you talk about Submariners, GMTs, Speedmasters. A tropical dial on those watches is really just something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
And
late 60s is something
It's really
special.
1969. There was a defect in the paint that Singer was using.
Interesting.
So we see Submariners always, even the red subs.
You
the
see it
early
across
ones from
brands that they're
69,
producing dials for.
all the Singer dials, Speedmasters, some Daytonas,
Mhm.
Submariners,
Yeah.
GMT Masters.
Yeah.
They're sick. They're always that kind of
Yeah.
shade, but it's only really 1 year.
So it leads me to another question. I want to talk about sort of the logic in pricing, and how you guys price these things, especially now, because we just came out of like a crazy period in watches where things were like shooting through the roof, right?
Yep.
Now things are a little softer than they've been, still much higher than pre-COVID, but the market seems to me, at least to me, it seems pretty volatile. How do you price vintage, especially something as unique and obscure and rare as a vintage dial? I mean, a tropical dial Speedmaster. Like, where do you even start?
The old adage was that 90% of the value in all these watches was in the dial.
Mm,
And you could have watches that had just horrendous cases. They didn't have bracelets, and people would pay based off of what the condition of the dial or the attractiveness of the dial is. And it's kind of changed over the last, 5-10 years, really, is where people start to begin to care about the integrity of the watch on a whole. And it's not to say that dials aren't kind of the first thing that people look at. There's a lot of watches that dials are your focal point, but Eric has kind of been the most outspoken in terms of really appreciating case construction. That was the first person who I remember reading and talking with that was just always talking about the case is really paramount. So you can take it from
Yeah.
there.
And like a watch like that, there's just huge differences because
Yeah.
that watch that's polished, but maybe still on a bracelet, and nice, but not amazing, could be $8,000. That one we put up at 25,000, so almost 3x.
Mm,
It's not inexpensive, but I've never seen one as nice
Right.
personally. We were the first to ever open that watch. Honestly,
Mm.
it's never been opened since it left the factory,
Mm.
and we probably will never see another like that original and raw and with that
Right.
perfect of a dial. So we put it up at 25. I wasn't sure it would sell immediately. Didn't know how long it would take, and we had like one guy grabbed it like within a couple hours, and then we had 3 more. Like, I wish you had told me about that. I would have bought it. So we had 4
Wow.
people
Wow.
ready to buy it within like a 5-hour span.
Wow.
So yeah, exceptional stuff does go quick. Like, people know what it is, and you can charge a lot for it because people are increasingly aware of how rare it is. Like, it's not like we find this stuff every day. It's
I mean,
hard
in this,
for-
no, right? Like you talk about case construction, rubbing my finger against the lugs. These lugs are sharp.
It's so nice. Yeah, that's like how it felt.
This
when it
is
left the
like
factory.
it's
Really nice.
grabbing my fingerprints. Like this
Yeah.
thing is serious.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
It's
awesome.
interesting though, because tastes change. Like there was a point where pre-professional Speedmasters were what you wanted to have.
Yep.
And I always liked the twisted lugs. I always thought the professional cases were really special. And same
Mhm.
thing with Submariners and GMTs. I always like the crown guards. So it's all preference, but I think that it's a lot of it times people are spoken to by the case. A lot of people are spoken to the dial. Then you got to also have conversations around this stuff to figure out what you want to spend on a watch. And it's not to say you can't find a 1980s Speedmaster for $6,000 that has the same aesthetic as that chunkier bracelet.
Right.
But it's just about what you really are looking for and the
Mm.
exceptional attributes or something that's just going to, check that box.
Yeah.
It's a
And
beautiful,
it's-
beautiful piece.
Yeah, it's really hard to find certain watches that are in great condition. Like, that's all I'm doing all day. As Rashawn knows, I'm saying no,
Yeah.
all the time. Like, no way, no, all the time.
It's not, we will respectfully
Literally,
pass.
we get
Yes,
emails.
yes. No, they are very nice when they decline my
We will
offer.
pass on this one, but all day Charlie's like, I'm saying no,
Yes.
and I'm texting no.
Yes.
But it does
Thank
make
you.
it when you find something, whether it's for yourself or for somebody who's been, hounding you, please keep an eye out for me on something. It makes it really a special experience when you find something that's taking you 600 watches to find the right one.
Yes.
And
It's amazing.
Look
And-
everywhere.
Yeah.
Try and speak with collectors all the time. You look online, everything.
I think as well the fact that there's so few watches now that sell for way above on the secondary market
Yeah.
of retail. And it used to be just about every steel Rolex was
Mhm.
above on the secondary and everything else. And we honestly had clients the last few years who'd be like, I wish I could do more vintage, but every time my AD calls me, I just say yes. And my safe is just full of these tan boxes with the Rolex coronet on them. I mean, I know people, they bought 20 or 30 watches and they're just sitting in their safe. They don't wear them.
Very
and they're
true.
like, I can't afford any vintage because I just say yes.
Because I
to
got
everything.
a safe full of
I've gotta
Laureatos.
just keep getting- So that now they're like, oh crap, like I should have sold those earlier. We sell some of those things. They're buying what they like, actually.
Yes.
And now it's like there's a return of sanity and normalcy, and people are
There
like,
is, yeah. Have
well,
you since the last time we've seen each other? How has your client base evolved or changed?
We try and speak with new clients every single day.
Yeah.
A lot of it is outreach from email. We don't get as much as, we don't do a focus on communicating through Instagram, but we do get messages from people. We try and just get them on the phone and talk to them or text, keep in constant communication. A lot of it is email because we update the website, I think 3 times a week.
Yeah, you guys
Usually, at
updated
least.
a lot. I mean,
It's
I'm on
very
there like every
proactive,
other
but,
day.
I mean, I believe in that. I
Yeah.
want people tell us that they refresh the homepage multiple times a day, and I want people to feel like they're constantly looking at it and excited. And there's not a lot of platforms that have so much continuous uploading, other than like Chrono 24s and marketplaces where it's a
Yes.
consolidated amount of people.
Yes. I wanna piggyback on something that you were saying, Charlie, in terms of just like what you're seeing from collectors and things like that. Do you find, the standard that you guys set, would you consider yourselves to be like trendsetters or like pioneers? Obviously you guys don't really push people into watches or like persuade too hard because the quality of your product speaks to that. But do you find yourselves being, the golden standard to vintage watch collecting?
He's the vanguard.
Yeah.
Not to sound arrogant, I want to be. That's what we
Yeah.
strive for. We work, even to the evenings hours, on the weekend mornings, and I'm in the coffee shop on Saturday and Sunday morning working on email blasts. And so I want to be the best at this, and I want to learn every single day about vintage watches. So that's what I hope to do. I hope to be doing this in 20 years and still having a fun time. We were at a dinner the other night, and I asked them, anything exciting that's come in or anything special that's come in. And they said, when you've been doing this as long as I have, it's not, there's nothing special coming across.
Another pre-owned dealer. And
I was shocked. I was like, I don't want that to be big stuff.
If that's us, we're retiring.
Yeah. But I mean, trend setting, I don't think that, we're talking about watches that are 60 years old. There have been people who loved these watches before I was born. There will be people who love these watches after us. But I mean, I think there's enthusiasm around stuff that you discover and that you're collecting yourself and you're passionate about. And that's contagious, but it's not to say that, that people knew about the 5512 before I was obsessed with it.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Yes.
I was late to the party if we're looking at it from long term, but I mean, you can speak to it. These are classic watches, so
It's really, I mean, our whole approach is kind of keep it simple, stupid. Like we're just trying to create a website that I would like to shop from with watches I would like to buy. Because I tell the story, I spent years looking for an unpolished Submariner when I was working at Christie's. And like before that, I couldn't find anything for years. I'm looking at every website. The photos are always bad and pixelated and retouched. I can't tell what's really nice. I mean, I can tell if it's generally nice, but I can't really see the details of the bevels. And like it was so hard to shop for and find something. And like we try to just put it the way I want to see it. Like
No, and I love that. Like the
original,
website is super clean. It's very simple.
I also don't like certain sites where it's like literally 5,000 words on like a
yeah.
Rolex
Well,
Yeah.
this is
I'm like,
interesting.
I don't need the full story. Like someone could go read that. We
Well,
keep it
because the whole
efficient.
point,
Yeah.
right, is especially I think when you're purchasing a vintage watch, if you're interested, inquire,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Like I can get you on the phone, I can get you through email, and I can ask questions.
And there's lots of great resources to read about. Like I wrote about the Hoyer Carreras on Hodinkee, so go read that.
Exactly.
Like, we're not trying to replicate that. And then you see the price at the very bottom. We're trying to keep it to like 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs.
We had a
all
client,
the basic questions.
Yeah, we had a client one time. They said that you need to tone down the flowery details of and start telling the story
Oh, he
of the
said
watch.
add more flowery details. That one guy. Well, yeah.
Well, it was
Different guy.
more so keep it more succinct.
Yes.
Just say
And
the
then
basics.
someone
I don't
else
want
was
to
like-
read about this Omega Speedmaster and hear 15 sentences of the origin of this watch or the collectible history about it. Just tell me the straight facts. And so sometimes people are a little bit like, why is this just 4 sentences on a description of a modern Explorer? But you keep it.
You can go to Hodinkee, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
We like long form content too, though.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
We love it, but
we just want to keep people like keep it succinct.
Keep them buying.
and they
Yeah.
can literally email and I'll get back to them within probably 3 minutes, or Eric will be texting.
And I
them
think
within
that's
3
the
minutes.
important thing to know. Part of the reason why I like speaking and working with you guys is I can speak to you.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you guys, the product speaks for itself, but then like I can pick up the phone, we can text, and we can talk about things. We can talk about the watch, we can talk about my collection, etc. But so, you have Win Vintage, and we didn't talk about this before, but you don't only sell vintage watches. You guys do dip your toes in modern
Yes.
a little bit.
We love the modern Tudor watch. Black Bay 58 is one of my favorite watches.
It's a great watch.
Yeah, and then
It honestly started. I sold modern, but I was mostly wholesaling it to other people a few years ago, and then I sold like a Patek 5070 to a bigger dealer. I got quotes from the usual suspects for the client, and then I think I sold it for 140. And then literally 1 or 2 days later, after the guy got it, it was on their site at like 185, and I was like, "Geez, like, I can do that." Like, why are they getting 45K profit? My site syncs with Chrono 24. Like a lot of people search by price on Chrono 24, and I'm more legit than they are, really. So I was like, screw that. I'm not going to keep doing that. So we just began listing it all ourselves. And selling a lot of modern. initially a lot for clients who wanted to dip out of modern and to go into vintage. So
Mhm.
it's like a nice, easy process to sell
Yep.
and then reinvest that into something else. But we love modern watches too.
Yeah.
Like,
You were gonna say something?
I mean, we're passionate about all watches. What we're mostly thinking about
maybe not the Laureato, but
Yeah,
we sold more than a few of those.
I saw a couple of those on the site.
we
Try to avoid more.
There's still an appetite out there for it.
Exactly.
No, they're great watches. People also need to wear stuff that they can feel comfortable, traveling around with. If they want to wear something like a Tudor Black Bay 58 or whatever, and
a lot
feel
of
like
modern Rolex.
yeah,
honestly.
it's comfortable for people too.
Yeah.
But what we think about the majority of the time in the curation process is more involved and focused towards vintage. This is what we really are excited about and think about at all times.
Is there anything that you've seen in modern, like either Rolex or Patek, recently that really excited you?
Not much with Patek,
Okay.
unfortunately. Sadly.
I like some of the micro brands or like the kind of, I like the Brew watch.
Brew
I think
is
the Brew
cool.
watch is cool.
Yeah.
Maurice de Marillac. We love
Those
the
are
Rally
cool.
Master.
Mm.
It's cool.
So it's a little bit, again, there's a little bit more of a personal touch
Sure.
with that. And maybe there's a face behind the brand that
Mm.
you associate it with and you like the creative mind of that individual.
I mean, modern Rolex is just very solid. Like, it's bulletproof. Very few issues, as you know, when you sell it, with people having to come back in a month and having a service issue or
Sure.
whatever. That pretty much doesn't happen, which is awesome. The quality of the product speaks for itself. They're
Yeah.
awesome.
What do you think about some of the new releases?
I think I never thought I would see a watch like the Puzzle out there. Or
Right?
Le Mans or
Crazy.
some of these things, the Le Mans, like, it's cool because at least that also echoes the vintage. And then
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people about that watch. Oh, should I get a vintage Paul Newman or that? Because we're not talking that much different in price.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. It kind of brings more people into the knowledge of the vintage Paul Newman watches because of that. I think there's a lot of cool things. Not a lot I would want to own personally. I have a modern Panda Daytona, the previous generation.
Okay.
126500 LN. I love that watch. I think it's awesome. I prefer that one to the brand new version.
Sure. With
Slightly
the,
different case and
yeah.
the thinner.
Yeah.
But it's to each their own. So it's good.
More on modern too. I mean, modern reversos are kind of
I love
they're
those.
fun.
Yeah, modern reversals are great.
Modern Mark Newsom hourglass watches,
Yeah.
Icopod watches. Those are
Those
cool
are sick.
designs.
You guys have a couple Icopod watches on
Yeah,
the
they're-
site
they're
too.
really-
I think they're cool.
They're
very fun.
iconic. They're cool.
Yeah.
The prices are not crazy for what
No,
they are.
no, they're pretty
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
In life, there are choices and options. Choices set the tone. Options change the mood. And while you aren't able to drive 2 cars, you can, however, travel with 2 watches. Introducing the Shuttle, a traveling watch case in collaboration with WCP and Wolf. Godspeed.
Available at wristcheckpod.com.
You got some other pieces here. This is interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, Movado coin watch.
The Movado coin watch. What can you first, before we get into it, how do you open this damn thing?
It's got a hidden little latch right on the side. So you just push this. There we go.
Oh, cool.
I had it on the
sterling
wrong side.
silver.
This is great.
It flips open like a desk clock.
Yeah,
up.
it comes up, right? That's pretty sweet.
That's sweet.
Yes.
This is the cool thing that I love about collecting vintage as well, is like when you find these like really obscure pieces. Like I never knew that Movado made
It's
anything
so
like this.
cool.
The box-
FDR had a gold one actually.
Oh, really?
Which is sick.
Wow.
The box is just as cool as the
The
watch.
box is
Very-
crazy.
The box
Yeah.
is super rare. It's so sweet.
So how are you coming across like a piece like this? Is this from like the original owner or
I found
from
it
an-
on eBay from
You-
like
wow.
a state picker, basically. So it's fun. Charlie has written about coin watches. I've sold coin watches both at Win Vintage and at Christie's. We love them. I think they're really
They're incredible.
those
Special
And this
articles.
is Saint Christopher,
Yes. Yeah.
the patron saint of travel.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
And those were very popular in the 1940s and 50s, all kinds of ads, because that was kind of the birth of air travel, and everyone was
Yeah.
afraid the planes would crash. So people
Holy
were
shit.
buying these
Wow.
like crazy, and everyone was traveling with these things.
No way.
So it's pretty cool.
I was gonna ask, is there anything that you guys come across that you're extremely like wowed about? Like, how did this come across my desk? Not more of like something where you're like questioning its legitimacy, but like,
No,
How
actually, I like that. Is there, question some legitimacy.
well, I mean, more of like almost like, I can't believe that this, like, I found this. Like,
Yes.
do you come across things?
Definitely. And there was a guy who emailed in the earliest reference of JLC Memovox, which has these kind of tubular lugs.
Yes.
We've seen them online always. They're in articles that Charlie's written about the Memovox, but
They're never in great shape.
they're almost always super
Very primitive
polished. The
case.
dials are distressed because there's no water resistance whatsoever. And this guy wrote and said, I've had this watch like brand new in the box from 1950 for many years on the original strap and buckle. And I'm like, what? How does that exist? Like, you don't really find true new old stock watches that
Yes.
much.
No.
Yes.
So I offered a price. He offered a little bit more. Charlie was feeling grumpy at the time and was like, "You can't make money on that." And I was like, "I just want to see this thing. Like, I'll pay the little bit more." And then it came, and he was like, "Good call behind this. This is insane."
I was down on that watch, despite being obsessed with them.
Yes,
But
and
they're special.
And I'm like, wow, I'll never see any. I mean, this is probably the only new old stock one like on the planet. I
Yeah.
know they even have it, and
Wow.
it's the birth of an iconic watch, the first
Wow.
model.
Wow.
So yeah, that's cool. There's definitely watches where I've got a great watch coming in tomorrow in Florida, and I'm like, can't really sleep tonight because I
Oh,
can't
wow.
wait to see this thing.
That's why you're hanging out late with us
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah, exactly. No
What is
sleep
it?
tonight.
I'm-
It's a really special Patek. I've
Okay.
never held this watch before. It's complicated, and I'll just leave it at that. Like,
Okay.
it's so cool. I didn't even know it really existed.
Wow.
So I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm always astounded at the Patek Philippe pocket watches or other pocket watches in that general, but sometimes it's pocket watches by Patek that are really they're kind of breathtaking. You see something that's over 100 years old, and the fact
Crazy.
that these things have been kept in intact and
Still
looked
ticking.
after for
Yeah.
so long by
And undervalued.
yeah. I mean, you can buy
I
these
see some of the
things-
prices on these things. And I'm like, this is crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and incredible.
There's certain watches, including that Omega on your wrist. When I first saw it, I was like, what? And I just stood for like 3 minutes just looking at all the, how is this in this condition? Is this dial all
Yeah.
original?
Yes.
Like the case? What?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Charlie as well. Like, I was like, we need to stop what we're doing and just look at this watch for the next 180 seconds and enjoy and bask
So
in
you
this
guys
moment.
still like really flip out over stuff that comes to the
Yeah,
shop.
100%.
We're
Yeah.
not like those other pre-owned dealers who are like, you've been in the game this long, nothing really excites you anymore.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh.
I know
Yes.
a lot of those guys.
yeah.
Sometimes the stories are exciting too.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
who are the owners of it, they were custodians of this watch and valued it, or
Yeah.
they had a family member that was the owner, and they are looking to get a fair offer on something, and you're the process through that, and it's exciting to be
Yeah.
the person who helps them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool too because it feels like there's more interest in vintage watches now. Like it sounds like the clientele is getting younger. It's definitely penetrated like the social media crowd. You guys have a presence. There's other people making content around vintage watches and things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. So I feel like the more people that I speak with, like it's not uncommon now for me to run into someone who's like, sub 40 years old, sub 30 sometimes, that's like wearing a vintage watch or like asking questions about vintage watches.
Mm-hmm.
Watches are just such great things. They're really they're small, they're portable. Even if you have a small
yeah.
apartment, you can enjoy these. You wear them.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like back into
they're-
the zeitgeist again now, right?
they're
Like
durable storytelling.
Jay-Z's rocking vintage timepieces. Like
that's really great for vintage.
you know what I'm saying?
honestly.
Like I feel like when you see like
Drake as well.
Oh
these
yeah,
guys,
that's right.
Yes.
Drake got a couple of he got a couple of heaters. Might have overpaid for them, I heard. But
Maybe.
but he's Drake because
He didn't come see Win Vintage.
exactly.
You know, what's very interesting too is, you know, as we speak about, you know, not being like other dealers not being wowed by timepieces. I picked up this Submariner because it just
those like pumpkin colored looms.
exactly
Crazy.
it just called me, and to the untrained eye, this is just another Submariner. And you know, you've done videos and kind of like tutorials and like broken down. I think you had maybe about maybe 50 Submariners on a desk and just like broke them down from like top to bottom.
Yeah.
I really, really, really appreciate the knowledge that you give. And I think it's very, very important for what the industry, you know, is missing.
Well, that's the cool thing, right? Is that like if you're new to watches,
Yeah.
there's the vintage watch world will supply you with all the education that you need. You don't
Yes.
even really need to dive into modern. I mean, it's accessible. You can go
Yes.
into a store, you can buy a watch. It's easy. When you start diving into social media and YouTube, you know, the wealth of knowledge that's provided to you as someone who's taking interest in this hobby it's how it started with me. You know, and all of those early Talking Watches episodes, reference points. I mean, I was consuming them every time they were posted up. I was like, okay, boom, here's another one. And you know, I got into, you know, vintage pieces first. I mean, modern pieces first, but then making the pivot into vintage was so, I want to say it was easier for me. I didn't have any like apprehension to it because I had seen all these videos. Not that I was super educated, but I felt more comfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is critical.
Yeah.
Really.
You were going to ask about this timepiece?
Yeah, please, Charlie, can you kind of like expound upon this very special GMT?
Yeah, it's a reference 1675 GMT from 1968 case production, kind of 69 serial. Bracelet is a CNI from 1970. You know, it's interesting. It's like the years of production, again, going back to the birth year thing. All those little details for me are kind of what I look at the watch and I get excited by. Bezel insert, all of this stuff is fascinating to me, and I think about GMTs all the time, but it's a watch that I'm super passionate about. I remember seeing Eric's GMT in Honor Bar in 2019.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
And just being like, wow, now I get it.
Mm.
And it's not like a watch that you won't see out and about, but
Charlie at that time was like, I don't really get the whole Rolex. It's not for me. I think at one point you said it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And then I showed him my GMT.
Whoa.
He went, this is a Rolex I can get behind.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Why
funny.
is the 1675 the like quintessential GMT?
I mean, it's maybe it's the quintessential GMT
I
for
think
me,
so.
but maybe it's not for other people. There's a lot of great history with the GMT. The long production run of the 1675 is probably why people feel very passionate about it. There's a lot of variation between the dials, the bezel colors, bracelets that give a really storied history, and you get to go down the rabbit hole. And I wrote an article on this, which was a labor of love, but was really exciting for me to get a really obsessive over a watch. I think that there's a lot of things that are great about the watch. Crown guards are particularly important for it. And then on top of that, it's a watch that is not necessarily, you know, Paul Newman. You can't wear it everywhere, every time. You could wear a GMT anywhere.
Anywhere.
And
Every GMT is kind of unique because of the bezel. They
Yeah.
all fade differently. You've got the fuchsia inserts that were born that way. It's got a 68. You've got like the orangish color of the earlier 60s where the red's more of like an auburn orange. And you've got the later 70s where it's more
that
of
is
a
good.
richer red. So like, and they've all faded differently and everything else. So it's that color. There's no other Rolex where color plays such a critical, important
and
piece of it
Submariners, you could
for
throw
vintage.
all the Submariners on a table and you'd have to take a second to find yours. Whereas the GMT, it's like,
Yes.
there's mine.
Oh,
from the
you know
corner,
immediately.
a mile away. Which
You know?
is it's special. Is you want to talk about unique attributes?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of watches out there where you can really identify your watch from everything else on a table from afar.
And some collectors get a little too crazy. There were vintage Rolex collector gatherings where people would have these like kind of little zip pouches that each held a different insert, and they'd
Okay.
have one GMT, but I think one guy had literally 20 different inserts for the watch.
Wow.
And he called it, people were calling it like Barbie with different dresses. He's got the all black version, the all brown, that he moved from a gold one, fuchsias, orangish reds, reddish reds, the blueberry, all blue. Like it was
The
it's too
blueberry
much.
is that's
mega fat font, all this
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
still no credibility behind this blueberry bezel.
I personally think some of them are real, but I don't think anything left the factory with it at
Mm.
Rolex. So it's
But is
very-
there any way to determine which one is real?
there are like two little dots on the back, but I just as like a personal experience, a friend of mine bought a ton of inserts from an old Rolex watchmaker, like 40 inserts from him. He was definitely a Rolex watchmaker at a Rolex AD in Pennsylvania. And in the 1970s, there were Tudor inserts, there were Submariner inserts, there was regular GMT inserts, and he had like 8 blueberry inserts in there.
Wow.
And they all had the dots, like all the stuff was authentic. He wasn't charging much for it. The guy got them very cheap. But to me, that was like, okay, saw this deal happen and transpire.
Mhm.
There's no way this guy's faking it, and he's only charged like $100 or $200 per insert,
Right.
for
Yes.
each insert.
Yes.
But I think they were just like sent out to ADs to put on stuff, or as like a trial or a test. I've heard Rolex won't really service them now.
I
that
heard
much.
that too.
So, but they
won't confiscate them, right?
Yeah, to be honest, like we've not been impressed with like how Rolex's knowledge of vintage. They are posting like a red Submariner in their collection that's in horrendous condition. A lot of the watches they have are reloomed. Like
Yes.
this red sub had a service insert, and tons of collectors were writing on the @Rolex Instagram, I'll send you the correct insert if you want. Just tell me where to send it. I'll give you a $3,000 insert for this watch. Just
Wow.
don't keep posting that watch.
Rolex collectors
Jeez.
are brutal, man.
Yes.
Let me help you get it together, guys.
You know,
You're struggling over there.
Ian Fleming's own Explorer 1016, which is in his like official portrait at the National Gallery in London and everything, which was really the inspiration for the watch James Bond wore in the books.
Yeah.
The family brought it to Rolex to service maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It was like 2008, 2009. And they replaced the dial, the hands, polished the case. I think they replaced the bracelet. I just
Oh my
destroyed
gosh.
the value. Literally a 7-figure watch.
Oof.
And just, they do that stuff all the time.
Yeah, I know.
There are brands that have respect for the originality of watches, and they value the integrity of the watch, and they say, "Oh, we're not going to touch this because we don't want it to, make you regret it in the future." So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And we're seeing a lot of stuff go through the Atelier de
Sure.
Restoration now. And these are, 1960s, 70s, 80s Daytonas
Yeah.
in some cases.
Mhm.
They're very robust watches
Yeah.
that just need a movement service.
That's
and
it.
I had someone send 2 of them in who literally owns a Rolex AD. He was sending them. They're both really perfect condition, unpolished, still working, but probably could use a tune-up because they've never been serviced in like 50
Mhm.
years. Rolex said these will be $16,000 each to service.
Wow.
And
The
we
movement costs-
recommend replating the movement parts and all this other stupid stuff. And I'm like, it doesn't need that whatsoever.
Wow.
2, this should be no more than 1,000 to 2,000 maximum. Just
Yeah.
to disassemble the movement, clean everything, and reassemble it.
Yeah.
So it's a problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned the word value, and I know we don't like to talk about watches as investments, but I think with vintage, sometimes with the ebb and flow of the market, there are opportunities to get into something that you might not otherwise had the opportunity to get into. Where are you seeing the greatest opportunities for collectors right now to collect?
I mean, the beautiful thing about vintage watches is it's just a massive universe of
Mhm.
things. So you could go for, I mean, a lot of people have looked at all gold watches because literally a lot of them are selling not much above the gold weight. So literally you buy it right, then it's worth more with the gold prices going up. So you can literally make money just on the value of the materials. Some people like vintage Rolex, some people like vintage Cartier. That's obviously been very hot in the market the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, the market's very down on the Genta kind of family of watches.
It
right
is,
now.
yeah. It's come down quite a bit.
Royal Oaks and things. So if you like some of those things, this is the best time to buy in the last
I love
5
how
years.
you said that. If you like some of those things.
It's the same with Speedmasters.
Yeah,
I mean,
Speedmasters have come
you get
down.
an Ed
Way
White
down.
Ed White watch right now is incredible.
Yeah, Ed White Speedmasters are really not that hot. They used to be super hot.
Yes, they were.
There's a lot of different time and opportunity to pick things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we tell people is obviously get best condition possible. Don't be afraid to be aggressive with an offer. Don't be a complete dirtbag or something. Be like, you can be a little, sharky a little bit to try to get something you want and make it happen, but don't be a jerk. And
I think that's the name of this episode. Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. Kind of piggybacking on, the uncompromising, choice of what you guys list on your site. I grabbed this captivating linen dial DateJust.
That is a really nice dial.
And this is something that cannot be recreated.
That's
this here, there's no way you could fake this.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that watch.
Hello, Mary.
I know. And looking at this dial, just like, man, I'm blown away.
The linen dials were some of my favorites. When I
Yes.
first started looking at vintage Rolex, I was looking at champagne linen dials.
Oh,
yeah.
Because I had never seen anything like it before that.
This is something that just like is extremely uncompromising.
I actually gave my mom a watch just like that recently.
Really?
And it was her first Rolex. And
Wow.
she
Oh,
wears it
wow.
every day.
Also, too, like just how you guys like internally as well, right? I'm giving the crown a wine, and it has that nice, crisp, crunchy sound.
It's so
like this
nice.
thing has just been serviced.
Yeah, it's so nice.
It's so good.
Yep.
It's
I
so
had
good.
one recently that I got rid of. It was a beautiful watch, blue dial, DateJust, the pipe hand dial.
Yes.
1601.
It's a 1601
Yes.
Sigma dial,
Yeah.
Okay.
but the wind on it was really bad.
I heard
was
about
like,
I heard about you selling this watch.
Yeah.
I was like, all right now.
Well, I went to a friend. It's a good watch.
Yes.
Went to a friend. We might be surrounded by his paintings. And it was a beautiful watch, but man, that wine. So I told you, be careful with that.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you guys for joining us this evening. It's always a joy to be
Thank you,
around you. I have
Perry.
so much fun.
Awesome.
It's
It's
been
an
great
honor.
getting to know you and to call you guys friends.
Yes.
Likewise.
And this is just, one more sit down of many more to come.
We
You guys
can't
are
wait.
always welcome. We have our own studio now.
It's so awesome.
It's
It really
official.
is. It's incredible.
Mikasa, Sukasa. But the next time we're going to see you guys in Florida.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can't
Yes.
wait.
Yeah.
Thank you. Episode 100.
Episode 100. This has been another episode of Wrist Check Podcast. You guys know where to find us. wristcheckpod.com, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok for the children.
Mhm. And maybe one day in the metaverse. Yes.
Shout out to Elon Musk.
Yes.
We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Deuces. That was good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.